Hi, it's Sally-Shakti, your visionary writing guide, and welcome to Tarot and Astrology for Visionary Writers from Monday the 3rd to Sunday the 9th of July 2023. So here we are over the halfway mark of the year. And Monday the 3rd today is the full moon in Capricorn. There's a lot of other aspects going on this week. There's a lot happening, but I think I'm really just going to focus on this energy of this Capricorn full moon in today's video. I hope you're feeling it well. For me and for other people I've spoken to, it's been very, very intense. We're at that halfway point in the year where we now have the full moon in Capricorn. I've spoken in the last couple of videos about the way that the full moon is both the manifestation of the seeds that we plant at the new moon and the illumination of where we might need to course correct our alignment to stay on track with the seeds that we planted at the new moon. So we have that as a monthly cycle, a lunar monthly cycle, every roughly 28 days between the new moon, roughly every 14 days between the new moon and the full moon. That cycle completes every 28 days back to the dark of the moon before the next new moon. We also have the solar cycle of a year, an annual solar cycle, with the sun moving through the different signs of the zodiac, the different points on the Celtic wheel of the year, which is the calendar that I'm most familiar with here in the Northern Hemisphere. So we move through the solstices, the equinoxes, and the cross-quarter points. And we have this dance also then between the sun and the moon. This monthly, daily, weekly, monthly, and annually, and more dance between the sun and the moon. And when we reach this point in the year with the Capricorn full moon, it's showing us the manifestation and the illumination, not only of the seeds we've planted since the new moon, but of the bigger cycle, the seeds we planted at the new year, the seeds we planted back when the year was young, when the new moon would have been in Capricorn. Now, 6 months later, the full moon in Capricorn we have the sun opposing and illuminating that Capricorn energy, and we have the moon full in Capricorn. So we're at this point in the yearly cycle where we are beginning to be able to see and to celebrate and to take stock of what we have been manifesting since this particular solar cycle began, or since the new moon in Capricorn at the beginning of this solar year. We're at the point of fruition. I spoke about this last week in terms of the solstice. We're at that fruition point where we begin to, it's very clearly illuminated for us what we have been creating in this first 6 months of the year. And Capricorn is particularly focused on our work, the structures of our daily lives, how we show up in the world, how we show up in service to others, the things that we do with our daily energy to create the path of our soul's vision as visionary writers and creatives. Capricorn full moon then is illuminating for us, showing us, highlighting for us what we can celebrate. Where have we sown seeds since the beginning of this year and taken steps in the direction of our soul's vision to manifest the life that we are now creating. And I really do want to draw attention to that opportunity for celebration and for gratitude, for that inner self-inquiry, to bring awareness and attention to what we have created and what we can celebrate and where we are going and how far we have come. It's so important to allow ourselves the opportunity to reflect on what we have achieved, what we have made happen, what we have created, what we are creating, and where we do feel aligned with our soul's path and our soul's highest vision. Because the other side of any full moon will always be showing us where the shadows are and what doesn't feel quite in alignment with where our soul wants us to be going, what doesn't feel quite true for us anymore, or is not part of what we want or desire or need to be creating going forward. And those shadow illuminations, especially when we're talking about the bigger cycle of a whole year, it can be big shadows that we see in ourselves. They can be big. I know for myself how, one of the ways it's been showing up is really a lot of my shadow behaviors coming up to the surface. A lot of the ways that I interact with people in negative ways has been coming up to the surface. How I hold myself back, what decisions I make that are not truly in alignment with my soul's vision and my soul's highest purpose. And when those shadows come to the surface, they can feel so painful, especially in Cancer season, when we also are, with the sun in Cancer, it's very much illuminating and attuning us to our inner wisdom, our intuition, and our feelings, our emotional bodies. So those pain points, those shadow aspects of ourselves that might be being illuminated with this Capricorn full moon can feel super painful at this time, when we're already in the highly sensitized waters of this Cancer energy, this Cancer season. So it's important as well to take stock in a balanced way and to give ourselves the opportunity to reflect and give gratitude for the celebrations, what we have achieved, what we're making happen, what we're creating, what we want to continue to do. Because otherwise those aspects can get overlooked in the painful discomfort of the shadows that might also be being illuminated by this moon, where we desire to course correct, or we desire to be in greater alignment, or there are things that we no longer want to be doing, or there are things that we feel that we need to begin to do to bring ourselves into greater alignment with our soul's highest calling and vision. So it's an opportunity to hold both those things in balance, as every full moon is. There's the dark and the light with it, and there's that balance between those polarized energies of the sun and the moon, of what is being illuminated, the celebrations and the shadows are both there. And can we hold them both? And can we in this Cancer season allow ourselves to feel both and to tune in to both? Can we journal with both and be present with both? Because as I mentioned last week at the solstice, was the solstice last week? It feels impossible. No, the solstice wasn't last week. The solstice was the week before. Thank goodness. As I mentioned at the solstice, it's not a time for me, in how I feel energetically and how I feel seasonally and cyclically. It doesn't feel like a time actually to be recreating new structures, putting new structures in place. It doesn't even feel like a time for me, and I've noticed this falling away in terms of how I'm running my business at the moment and how I'm living my life at the moment. It doesn't feel like a time for putting the foundations down, for creating the structures, whether that be we want to create new structures out of the old, or whether we're continuing to build the old structures. I noticed for myself that in this energy of the summer, the structures that I had been creating throughout the winter and the spring I haven't had the energy to continue to put energy into the foundations for those structures. Throughout the summer, it's like the structures that I created in the winter and the spring are what I'm now dealing with. What are the structures that are now bearing fruit? It doesn't feel like time, even with this Capricorn full moon illuminating those structures, it doesn't feel like the time to be taking them apart and creating new ones. This is the time to be present with what structures we have been creating and what those structures have created for us in our lives. And I want to mention about what I feel also is an interesting collaboration between the energy of Capricorn, which invites us to look at our work in the world and how we're showing up and the structures we've created in order to give us stability in our lives so that we can perform our work in the world. And I know that's really important for myself and for many of us as visionary writers and creatives. It's how we show up, it's how we express ourselves in the world. And our Capricorn structures are very much part of what we need to support us to be able to show up at our highest frequency, at our highest potential in the physical world, through our work, through our creativity and our creative vision. When I tap into what also feels like the soul's highest vision, my soul's highest vision, it's a much bigger picture than just what I do for work, what we do for work as creatives, visionary writers and creatives. The soul's highest vision is the full spectrum of what we are doing with our lives here on earth. Not only how we show up, but how we live our lives on a daily basis. And this is how it feels for me specifically, how are we tapping into or creating opportunities to live in that blissful ecstasy that is the essence of life itself? Where are we blocking ourselves from feeling that joy of living? Where might we be able to explore and experience greater pleasure as the foundation of our lives and what we're creating and co-creating? How can we draw in and live within, as our soul's highest expression, that bountiful, abundant, orgasmic, blissful ecstasy that is life, that is life force, that is the creative energy that wants to rise up through us and be channeled in and channeled down and be downloaded through various light codes. But it is that energy of life, that energy of life force, that kundalini is the creative fire energy that wants to create through us and become manifest in the world through us. But I think it wants to do that in so much more of a broader vision than simply what are we doing for work and how are we making our money. More than just what do we want to create and how are we going to create it. That's the Capricorn element of this energy. But when we tap into our soul's highest vision, can we notice if our soul is also asking us to create opportunities for more joy, more pleasure, more ecstasy, more fun, more bliss, more playfulness in our lives, more downtime, more of what truly nourishes us as not only human beings, but also as visionary writers and creatives, in order for that ecstatic, blissful kundalini energy to ignite in us and to manifest through our creative energies. What might we desire to put in place that will support us to live our richest and most juiciest lives that will fuel and ignite the creative vision that we hold? How can we become more full and complete in our human experience? And I mention these things knowing also that we may be finding it challenging to move in those directions. We may not feel like we have access to those possibilities. Knowing that we are all bumping up against our lives in physical form in this material world and the constraints and conditions that are part of this dance of reality, the economic circumstances we're living in, particularly our own personal finances, our own personal situations and experiences, whether we have families or care for others. There are things that we experience that may feel like they create limitations as to what we can choose and what we can do with our lives, particularly as the energy of this Capricorn full moon is governed by the energy of Saturn. Saturn is our relationship with time and money and energy. It's our responsibilities. It's how we take responsibility for our lives in this 3D world. So again, we might feel some tension showing up with the energy of this moon around what we desire and what we feel is possible to create. And I'm not suggesting there might be simple solutions to that. But I feel that the Capricorn full moon also asks us to continue to take one step at a time and put one foot in front of the other. And that when we align those steps with our breath and our bodies and what we can sense into in terms of our soul's highest calling, then we take the small steps that continue to align us with our soul's visionary creative path. I feel like that's what I want to say about the astrology this week. So I'll move straight into what the tarot cards would like to say to us. Just shuffling the Elemental Power Tarot deck by Melinda Lee Holm. And let's see how the tarot would like to support us in this strong energy of the Capricorn full moon. Okay, 2 cards. We have, let's see, King of Cups and the Emperor. Okay, both of these came out. Or is that a Queen? I find it difficult to tell with this deck. I'm going to actually look in the book. I find it a little tricky to tell sometimes with this deck between the Kings and the Queens. Let me just see. Oh, no, it's neither. It's the Page. Okay. Yes, that's the Earth energy that's coming through the Page. Okay. So we've got Page of Cups and Emperor. Need to use this deck more often and get a little bit more used to it. I've got a deck that I use very rarely and would like to get to know it a little better as well. So the Page of Cups and the Emperor have come forward for us. The Emperor is a strong fire energy. It's the number 4 card in the Major Arcana, and it's the energy of showing up in our leadership. the Emperor asks us to step into our own leadership, our own abundance, and take up space on our visionary creative path. The Page of Cups invites us to anchor our dreams and visions into reality, into the earth of the material world. So together, I feel that these cards are inviting us with this Capricorn full moon to take up space, move intentionally in the direction of our soul's highest vision, in order that we can draw that energy down and anchor it into literally the roots and soil of this earth. So I'm going to put 3 journaling inquiries in the notes for you related to the 3 themes that we've been speaking about with this full moon energy today. If I can remember them now, I'll tell you what they are. So the first one is to explore your gratitudes, your celebrations. What can you celebrate? What are you grateful for? What are the seeds that you've been sowing since the beginning of this year that feel in alignment, that are moving you in the direction of your soul's highest purpose, and that you feel grateful for and that you can celebrate, that is showing you how far you've come? So it's the gratitudes and the celebrations is the first journaling inquiry. What have I don't really want to say achieved. What is coming to fruition for me since the beginning of this year that I'm grateful for? And then the second one is about the shadows and the challenges that are being illuminated for us right now. What are the shadows that are being illuminated for me to see and release? And the third is connecting us into our soul's higher vision, our soul's highest vision. What steps does my soul want me to take to experience greater bliss and joy as I walk the path of my purpose? Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope this full moon is treating you well. There are some very intense energies coming up this month of July, and so I'm wishing you well. Stay with your journaling and be present, be compassionately present with what is true and alive for you, as we really are moving through deep level transformation and adjustment and healing on our path, a collective path of evolution in consciousness, of which you are a part, and your creative vision, your creative practice plays an enormous part in that process, as does your healing and your journaling and the inner work that you're doing that enables you to then show up in greater alignment through your creative work and practice. Thank you for being here. I would love to connect with you as always. I'm always available on Facebook and Instagram at Writing Thriving. It'd be lovely to connect, and I'll see you next time. Lots of love. Bye-bye.